Okay, so we're going to complete the square to solve the equation that's given. But the first thing I notice when I'm trying to solve this equation is that the leading coefficient here is 2. And I don't like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide that out of every term of my equation so I can draw a picture of this. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say if I divide everything by 2, then I've done the same thing to both sides of my equation, and this makes the math a little bit easier. So I'm going to end up with x squared minus 8x equals 12. Okay. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do this in algebra tiles. And I'm going to look at this and say, well, if I had some algebra tiles here, and I have an x squared, so we'll do this here. I've got an x squared. That's my x squared. So I'm going to say that's an x by x squared. And I have negative 8x's. Well, I can do this and say, well, we'll just make them red so they're negative. And say I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these guys. And I'm going to draw these in so that they make a square in my template here. So I put 4 this way. I want to even in both directions. 1, 2, 3, 4 in this direction. I'm going to erase these so I can make them go away. And say what I've really done here is I got a minus 4 because it's a minus 8 and a minus 4, so minus 4 in this direction. And I still want to complete my square. And negative times a negative is a positive, so even still, though everything's negative, my dots here in the middle are going to be positive. And I know that I'm going to end up adding 16 of these to complete my square. And if I want to complete my square on the left side of this, I'm going to write this equation down again. I've got my x squared minus 8x, and this equals 12. And I'm going to add in 16 because I completed my square by adding in 16. But what I do to one side of my equation, I have to do to the other. And I do this because it makes it so that this side of the equation is factorable. And I want to find things that multiply to 16 and add to negative 8. Well, what's handy is these right here are my factors. I know that a negative 4 times a negative 4 multiplies to a positive 16, and they add to a negative 8. So I've sort of done all my work right here. And I can say on this side, this is really going to be my x minus 4 and my x minus 4. And on this side, I'm going to add my numbers together and say 12 plus 16, and this is going to be 28, so this is 28. And when I have the same thing twice, I've got this x minus 4 twice, I can write that with a power of 2 and say this is the same as saying I've got x minus 4 twice equals 28. And then I want to undo my power of 2 here, right? And I know that just like if I have addition, I can subtract to undo, and if I have multiplication, I can divide to undo. If I've got something squared, I can square root to undo, because they're opposite operations. So I'm going to square root both sides of this, and when I do that, this stuff all cancels out, because really the index right here is 2, and when the index and the power are the same, they cancel each other out. And I'm left with this x minus 4 on this side. And I can simplify my radical because I have a perfect square in it. So I know that my perfect squares are like 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, and so forth, right? Like that's how that works. And I know that this is the same thing as saying I have the square root of 4 times 7. And 4 is a perfect square because 2 times 2 is 4. So I can say that this is going to be a plus and minus. This is the same as saying I have x minus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 4 and the square root of 7. And the square root of 4 is 2. So I've got x minus 4 equals plus or minus 2 radical 7. Okay. I really don't need my parentheses here anymore because I undid my power of 2. And I still want to get my x right here alone, so I'm going to add this 4 to both sides. So I'm going to say, well, if I add 4 to both sides, then I get my x alone. And it's plus or minus 2 square root of 7 plus 4, which means I have two answers. I have a positive 2 square root of 7 plus 4, and I have a negative 2 square root of 7 plus 4. And usually they put the irrational part second, so I can switch these orders if I chose, or I could switch these orders if I chose. It doesn't matter, both are correct.